Welcome. My name is Hannah Carney. I use she, her pronouns, and I run the Beverly Social Justice Book Club. We meet here at the library every month. And basically the purpose of the book group is to build intentional community around social justice here in Beverly. And so I'm really proud of our book group for basically taking what we're learning and putting it into action. We thought of the idea of having this type of forum less than 1 month ago, and so the fact that we're sitting here all together right now is really a special just thing that has come out of this group. And so thank you all for being here. I want to acknowledge that one of our book group members in particular has made significant efforts and contributions to today's event. And unfortunately, she's not able to be here, so thank you, Aya. We recognize your efforts. Also, thank you to all of our candidates for being here. I know that making time for all of these events is very hard, so thank you so much for being here. And also to the partners, spouses, and families of our candidates. We realize that it's a lot right now, and the campaign trail is very exhausting, and we really recognize your sacrifices, so thank you. I also would like to thank everyone who submitted questions. We received so many thoughtful and caring questions, and we're going to try to stuff as many as possible into today's event, but we aren't able to get to everything. So thank you, and feel free to follow up with candidates if we didn't get to your questions. Also, a special thanks to our volunteers and to the Human Rights Committee for everything that you have done to help make today possible. And finally, thank you to BevCam, Kim in particular, and Chris for being here and getting everything set up and for live streaming our event today. The purpose of this event is to open a conversation about, specifically about social justice ahead of our November 4th elections. And so we have with us both mayoral candidates as well as 4 of our 6 counselor at-large candidates. And the 2 candidates who are unable to be with us today have submitted videos, which we'll share later in the program. I think that's all my general announcements. I'm going to actually offer an invitation at this moment. Sharing space is a time that I feel like we sometimes can rush right into sort of the meat of the program, and I want us all to just take a moment to take 3 long, slow, deep breaths together. I'm going to do this with you. And I invite you to use your senses and bring your awareness into the space and into this present moment. If you wish to set an intention for how you'd like to show up in the space today, I welcome you to do that. Please keep in mind that we are going to be covering a lot of topics today, and some of the content can bring up some very uncomfortable feelings, emotions, reactions, and so we as facilitators have taken great care to curate the event in a way that we hope prevents harm, but we also realize that safety cannot be guaranteed. So please take care of yourselves. If you need to get up, take a break, get a drink of water, stretch. If it's supportive to have a conversation or make a phone call, please do so, but take that out into the hallway, please. And finally, I would just like to offer our city's land acknowledgement. So today we respectfully acknowledge the Namkeg people as the land we are currently on was their ancestral lands until disease, war, slavery, and colonization displaced them from their homeland. The Namkeg people were descended from the Pawtucket people who originated from northern New England. We recognize our obligations to this land and to the indigenous people who care for it. As we work toward diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, we acknowledge our need to decolonize our systems by including Indigenous people and perspectives in our discourse, in our decision-making, and in our actions. And finally, I'd like to welcome Purvi from the Human Rights Committee to say a few words.
I'm on my tiptoes, and I think I'm still not totally seen, but for those that don't know me, as Hannah mentioned, thank you. My name is Purvi Harley. I use she, her pronouns. My husband and I and our 3 kiddos have lived here in Beverly for the last decade. We're proudly raising our kids in this beautiful community. I'm also the chairperson of the Beverly Human Rights Committee, which is a volunteer advisory body for the city. We bring together diverse viewpoints and help to raise a general human rights consciousness for our fellow Beverly residents and municipal government. So I thought I would start my remarks really briefly by laying out some brief context. Hopefully none of this that I'm going to quote is unfamiliar sounding to anybody. First, I wanted to offer Article number 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Remember that word dignity. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Secondly, the U.S. Constitution starts off with a preamble. Dig deep into those elementary and middle school days. And this lays out the why behind the adoption of the Constitution and the articles within, and it starts, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ... Justice. That is why we are all here in this room, and that's what every person who lives, works, and visits Beverly deserves. And yet, here we are. The elephant in the room is far too large to hide anymore. Our national conscience is splintered, broken, and frankly unreliable when it comes to these and other rights as laid out in the UDHR and in the preamble of our Constitution. Where is the dignity from the more than 1 million Bay Staters, many of whom are our neighbors in Beverly, who are on the brink of having their food security ripped out from under them? Where is the reason and concern when families, including many of my family's personal connections here in Beverly, who are considering what it means to actively split up their families across national borders in order to ensure they are not persecuted, harmed, or worse, for enabling their own children to live their true selves? And where is the justice when it feels like the only way for some to get ahead is for others to be intentionally and deliberately left behind? That is not justice. I feel that local leadership is more important now than it has ever been in my lifetime. Thank you all, here and not in the room, for raising your hands to do the hard work. And thank you to the Social Justice Book Club for bringing us together, and all for being here in this room to hold each other accountable. To those running for office, I think I speak for every resident in Beverly, regardless of housing status, economic fortune or misfortune, national origin, disability, race, born or chosen religion, gender, sexual orientation, or any other identity, when I say, or rather, at the risk of completely embarrassing my family, I sing in the words of EDM pop production duo The Chainsmokers. Feel free to join in. I need you, I need you, I need you right now. I need you right now. So don't let me down. I think I'm losing my mind now, it's in my head. Darling, I hope that you'll be here when I need you the most. That time is now. Don't let me down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Purvi. Okay, so we're going to move into our introductions. They're going to be very quick, 1 minute each. Purvi has volunteered to keep time, so when you see the yellow folder waving, that means you're at time. So We're going to start names, pronouns, office you're running for, your elevator pitch for your campaign platform, and your favorite thing about Beverly. Kyle, would you like to start?
Hi, everybody. I am Kyle Ritalik. My pronouns are he, him, and what else was there? I absolutely love Beverly. The office I'm running for is counselor at large. My elevator pitch for my campaign. I haven't really run a traditional campaign. I've been doing dad stuff all summer, and then school hit, and I was doing dad stuff all this beginning of the school year. So I guess my campaign elevator pitch is family first, and I look at Beverly as one enormous family, and we all have to live together. And there's something very special about Beverly. I'm born and raised here, and in Montserrat and Endicott and Salem, and all these different walks of life have been here my entire life. So there's no room for discrimination or anything like that in the city. And I think that Beverly's very unique because we've taken that stance from an early point, and I want to keep that going as well. My favorite thing about Beverly, I can't say one thing because it's all incredible. From the city council, from the mayor to the programs that are here. I mean, everything is it's endlessly amazing. So yeah, everything is my favorite thing about Beverly.
Hi everyone, my name is Brendan Sweeney. My pronouns are he, him, and I am an at-large city councilor running for mayor of Beverly. If you've been following this campaign, you've probably already heard a little about why I'm running. I have the experience to do the job. I believe it's time for a change, and my wife and I are deeply invested in Beverly. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to check out my website, sweeneyforbeverly.com, to learn more about my blueprint for Beverly. I also believe that is not what you are here to learn more about at this forum. So here's one thing I hope that you already know about me. As I've demonstrated in my 4 years as a city councilor, I show up and I listen to the concerns of all members of the Beverly community. As your mayor, I will bring this same commitment to listening, to learning, and to leading with compassion. Most importantly, I welcome today's discussion so that you do not have to rely on rumors or misinformation to wonder whether I'll stand up for everyone in our community. So let me be clear. I will stand up for everyone in Beverly, regardless of race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. And I know I'm getting away for time, so let me just close with my favorite thing about Beverly, which is our people. Each and every one of us are what make Beverly such a great, welcoming, and inclusive community. And I am looking forward to continuing that important work with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kanan Mackenzie DeFranza, and I am running for City Councilor at Large. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to applaud the fact that for our candidate forums, this is by far what I conceive to be the most diverse room that I've been in. And I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the intentionality around that. I also want to say that while I would assert that my pronouns are she, her, I do respect the right for people to choose to not share their pronouns publicly if they're not ready to do so or don't feel comfortable doing so. And aside from that, I just want to say again, I'm really grateful for this conversation. I want to thank you all for your bravery and your courage. I don't mind that there was a week left to go. I feel like these are really important questions, and doing it publicly and doing it in a way where I hope we leave feeling connected as neighbors is really critical and really important to me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Sonia. I'm also running for Councilor at Large. I grew up in a working class family to a couple of crazy teenagers. My mom's here in the front row. Her example, the example she set, when we were kids of, working overnight shifts, as a nursing aide, doing that backbreaking labor, getting home, getting us ready for school, catching a couple of winks, and then going to work at a second job to make sure we were making ends meet. That resilience and that commitment to getting my sisters and I to where we needed to be is what got me interested and involved in public service at a very young age. I've wrapped myself in local politics at 15. I was at the State House at 17, and we've pretty much been at it ever since, working on behalf of members of Congress, governors, etc. My elevator pitch is that we have knocked 9,000 doors. The underlying theme of our campaign is, I think, one that we share as a room here and beyond, of meeting people where they are. I think if we do that and we bring in those diverse perspectives, there's a better chance that we're going to be able to move forward together productively as a community. So that's what I'm hoping to do. My favorite thing about Beverly, we'll say the people, the coast, but my single favorite thing is the Off-Cabot Comedy Club. It is very cool that that is here. So great to be with you. Thanks for being here.
My name is Jupiter Rick Marciano. My pronouns are me, myself, and I. Me is an object pronoun, myself is a reflective pronoun, and I is a subject pronoun. One of the reasons I'm running is because the government needs to not force us to all go electric. We should have our choice how we want to heat our homes, how we want to survive during a natural disaster. So that's one of the big ones there. Favorite thing about Beverly? Lynch Park. Many years ago, there was a wealthy merchant, and he donated $700,000 to the city to go and buy these parks. Because in Europe, people looked through the fence, beautiful parks, but they had to pay to go in. So he wanted to make sure the Beverly residents had some nice place to go. And I think that's one great thing. And I love the ocean also. That's a big part of Beverly I love. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to BevCam. Thanks to Hannah and Aya and the Social Justice Book Club, and thanks to Purvi and everybody in the Human Rights Committee. My name is Mike Cahill. I've been your mayor for the last 12 years, and I'm running for re-election this year. My pronouns are he, him. So why am I running? Beverly has become one of the most desirable, one of the most open and welcoming, one of the safest, one of the best run, one of the most strongest financial cities in the country. We've known for a long, long time how amazing our community is. More recently, other people are picking up on that. It doesn't happen without a lot of work. It doesn't happen without a lot of incredible partners. And looking around the room and seeing so many people who are involved every day, every day with the great work of the city. I would say my favorite thing about Beverly, besides Joe's Pizza, is really our people, because at our very best, we are that welcoming community that we always strive to be. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And just to let you know that Purvi will waive the folder when you have about 10 seconds left. So, and Kanan, thank you for the feedback about the pronouns. I will make sure to update our materials going forward to make that explicitly optional. I appreciate that. Okay, our first section of questions are around immigrants and ICE. And so we have selected some. We've had many questions come in about this. So I'm just going to read through, and then every candidate will have 2 minutes to speak on this topic. So how is Beverly protecting the immigrant community? What side are Beverly candidates on? I am part of Immigration Services Organization based in Beverly, and I would like to know from the current mayor and any of the other candidates about the protections being offered to immigrants in Beverly when ICE comes here. Does the city have a plan to protect immigrants in Beverly? If ICE shows up in Beverly to carry out federal immigration and deportation detentions, which is no longer a hypothetical as it has happened elsewhere in Massachusetts, would you support their efforts to detain people if ICE was not presenting judicial arrest warrants? That was submitted by Claire Liberis. And how does Beverly protect our undocumented residents and visitors? What steps would you take to ensure safety for all? And that was submitted by the Social Justice Book Club. Sure.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Thank you for those questions. I'll share just a few facts about Beverly and where we're at with ICE. Our schools, year in and year out, day in and day out, enroll and teach all of our children and support all of our families and they never ask about immigration status. That's not unique to Beverly. That's how it works here in Massachusetts. Back in January, with what was coming from the federal government, all our school staff were trained in how to respond if ICE were to show up at the door. And they all understand that unless an ICE agent presents a valid judge-ordered criminal warrant, that they're to gain no admission to our buildings. Our police do not cooperate with federal detainer requests having to do with immigration status. They don't cooperate with or help ICE. At a personal level, I don't want to see ICE taking our children, their parents, or any resident who is here in Beverly living, going to school, working solely on the basis of an immigration status. Because these neighbors of ours are helping make our city what it is. And let's be frank, we all understand that immigrants built this country, immigrants built this city, and continue to do every day. So that's where I stand on it all. I want to share just a story. The other day, a friend called me up. He went for an interview for his citizenship in Boston last week. And he was alarmed because during the interview, they told him that his fingerprints that he submitted weren't sufficient. He had to go back and do that over. Now, that may be routine, and he may be just fine, but it scared him to death. And I think, so I spoke with him, I connected him to the congressman's office, and hopefully they're going to help him through it. But it just does speak to all the fear that's out there. Our friends, our neighbors, our family members, we have to help them through this.
One thing about Beverly is they promote the undocumented residents. So right there shows you there's really, there's no major issue. Everyone should be treated equal. Right now in our schools, every student that goes to the schools, the city has to pull out of the city coffers over $15,000 per student. So, and the school has no problem whatsoever with the undocumented individuals. And years ago, we had, there was a few individuals the city hall talked about. They brought them up. They were undocumented, going to schools, and they were perfectly protected. Nobody turned them in the city. Everything was taken care of. But everything must be done lawfully. You don't go after them unless it's completely lawfully. A story years ago, 1987, I won Athlete of the Year in Berlin, Germany, where I was stationed in the Army. There was a few black individuals that were very upset, and they would not compete against me in all-star events they had and other events. They would not compete with me because I was white. They did not want to lose against a white person. During a flag football game, I was playing safety and standing there, and one of the black soldiers, he hit me on my left leg and he broke my leg on purpose. I had to crawl off the field. And I don't blame all black people for that incident. Those are those specific individuals, and that's what you have to key on. You can't key on a group as a whole. It's the ones that are doing all this racist stuff. Those are the ones you have to key on. You don't blame a whole society or a whole group. What I have down here was camping. You're not allowed to camp in Beverly, and part of that was some of them were camping out by the Air Roughside School. They were 100 feet away from the children. And today we don't know who is who, and we can't take a chance at all. And also, if they have those camps, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. I think looking at the national picture, right, the dread is the point, the fear is the point, the idea that you should be worried about leaving your home, going on vacation somewhere else and having to interact with border authorities when you come home, doing the kind of routine things, getting your kids off to school, going to work, things like that, having to worry about being able to get from A to B without being harassed by masked federal agents, I think is obviously part of the point, right, is the horror and the dread. And so as a community, we have to signal consistently and perpetually our intolerance for that activity from federal agents. How do we do that? We make sure that our police resources are not spent assisting ICE for civil immigration matters, right? That's not the purview of the Beverly Police Department, in my view. So we should not have them working on those things. They have other and better things they could be working on. Second, we continue to support through voice and action our immigrant neighbors. Some of you know my wife is an immigrant. We had anxiety about her green card appointment. We have that same anxiety of like, hey, can we go to Cancun and back, and make it clear at the border that this is somebody who's doing everything, that her paperwork is in order and things like that, because they harass in that sort of way. So we've got to continue to make sure folks feel safe. We've got to make sure that folks feel supported in the community, and we've got to make sure that we're spending our resources appropriately as a community as it relates to public safety. And so I'll be committed to doing just that, working with our public safety officials to make clear that supporting civil immigration matters is not in our purview as a community. So you can trust me to do that and to be informed by our lived experience. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. Many of you who I know in the room know that I have immigrated to the United States myself. I was about 7 years old, and I immigrated to Brooklyn, New York, and after that, many other members of my family immigrated to the United States and continue to. So for me, I appreciate the acknowledgement in the beginning where you said if you feel strong emotions today, like that's okay, because for sure, there were many of these things that I was thinking about or examples I wanted to give where I felt a really strong sense of connection or emotion to it. And for me, certainly, the inhumane treatment, the inhumane way that we are pursuing people, the way that we are setting a very bad example for our young people, for our society, in the way that we're approaching what we think is criminal behavior is scary for many reasons. Not only is it unconstitutional, lacking of due process, but also it is frightening to also learn how little many people understand about our own civil society and our own rules of law. Many people don't understand that in order to seek asylum, you need to come on US soil. It is scary that people don't know that. It is also scary that for people who have gone through very painful, expensive, and long processes, that they were met with their appropriate legal paperwork being snatched away from them with very little notice. Many of us would not survive if someone said you have 6 months to pack up and leave the United States. And we have resources. We have homes and families. So the inhumanity of it is really startling. And I am pleased to know that from my understanding as a locality, we are committed to not only ensuring safety, providing resources, but we will not comply with or participate with or support unlawful activity, which is trying to pursue anyone for immigration reasons in any place without a signed judicial warrant and due process being guaranteed. And I believe we should be willing to put ourselves in the way, literally and figuratively, to prevent that. Thank you.
So thank you for the questions. I really appreciated that answer, Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza. That was, I think it had captured the reality that we are a nation of immigrants, and cities on the East Coast, especially like Beverly, we have seen so much of our growth come directly from immigrants who have made contributions to our community. And one other thing that's very special about Beverly is the belief that we all carry that we need to treat our neighbors, not only treat our neighbors with dignity and respect, but love our neighbors, regardless of their immigration status. And that's what I believe is so important for us to affirm as a community. That if you are here in Beverly, you will be protected by your city government. You are valued. For children of immigrants, you have the same right that everybody else in this state, in this country, has to a free, high-quality public education, regardless of your immigration status. And so I think it's very important that we make these things clear because of the division that is happening at the national level. It's very important that we say Beverly is and always will be a city where everyone is empowered to make a life for themselves and their family, regardless of immigration status. So that is the commitment that I make as mayor, to upholding those values. More specifically, I will make sure that the city of Beverly ensures that every student is protected in schools, and that there is no ICE activity with any students in Beverly unless they have both parental consent or a judicial warrant. It's very important that we as a city keep safe other private spaces, houses of worship, nonprofit service providers, so that anyone in this community knows that they can access that service without fear. I think that's very important. It's also important that we ensure that the Beverly Police Department follows the ruling of the Supreme Judicial Court in making sure that they do not and will not enforce any civil immigration matter. And it's important that we continue our commitment through the Beverly Police Department that they will never ask about immigration status. Because the last thing I want to see in Beverly is somebody who could be a victim of domestic violence be too afraid to call the police department because they're concerned about their immigration status. We have a commitment to keep everybody in this community safe. I will live out that commitment as mayor, and those are some of the tangible ways that I plan to do so. Thank you.
So I guess I'm on the side of the family. Like, I could never imagine being torn apart from my kids. I think that's one of the harshest things you could ever have happen to you. And I think we have a massively broken system. I think I'm all for immigration and I'm all for people coming into this country. I think that people they're not given a chance. At the border, there should have been a facility to intake all these people. I think everyone deserves a chance, and everybody needs to be able to file their paperwork and have someone advocate for them, especially if they don't speak the language. I drove a gentleman last night from Egypt, and he has a pregnant wife and son in Egypt, and he also has an ex-wife and 2 children in Winthrop. And so he's an immigrant himself. And I asked him if he was scared. I'm like, are you scared for your status, for your wife and your kids in Egypt and here? And he said he wasn't scared because he had filed everything appropriately. And it was interesting to have that view on another side of it, of an immigrant that didn't seem extremely scared. And driving Lyft and Uber, I always ask people about the airport and if they hate the airport. And I always ask people how they feel, especially in the past 6 to 8 months. Like, if someone comes in and I'm like, I just start that conversation, and it's kind of like a 50-50 shot where it's a lot of people are comfortable. A lot of people are like, I'm not that worried, but it is a horrible thing that's going on. And then there's the people that are scared, and so I think when it comes down to it, like everyone said, like Beverly, we're not enforcing that. We're not doing ICE's business. And I think another thing that we can't promise is that if the federal government does just roll in here, what power do we have? And I think that's another question that we need to ask is, like, as a city, like what can we actually do? Like, if the feds come in and just steamroll everybody, like what actions can we take? What can the mayor do? What can city council do for you and for those people? And I think that's an unanswered question, and I don't want to just say, oh, I'll make sure it all works out perfect, because I don't know how it could work out. And we don't know, because I don't think they've come here yet. So I think that's another big question that we have to ask is, what can we actually do? And yeah, I'll stop, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next group of questions is related to our LGBTQIA community here in Beverly. So the questions that we've captured for this section are as follows. So, Councilor Sweeney, Mayor Cahill has had a long history of supporting the LGBTQ plus community. You have said that you previously supported Mitt Romney, who tried to abolish the LGBTQ plus Youth Commission and opposed gay marriage. What are your positions on these issues? You have also not attended any of the pride flag raisings in town. Could you please clarify your positions on LGBTQ plus issues? And that was submitted by Tanya Neslucin. Please tell us about your proposed protection or support for GBLT folks, including about prior and or future support at the city's Pride Flag Raising Day. That's from Carol Rain. Can you please share if you support marriage equality, LGBTQ plus non-discrimination in schools and elsewhere? In addition, what have you done in your careers to support the LGBTQ plus community in terms of public policy? That was submitted by Jay Driscoll. And finally, for those candidates who either currently worked at, attended, or otherwise affiliated with Gordon, please explain why you signed or affirmed Gordon's quote-unquote life and conduct statement, which includes the following language: practices governed by Scripture. The following behavioral expectations are binding on all members of the Gordon community. Those words and actions which are expressly forbidden in Scripture, including but not limited to blasphemy, profanity, dishonesty, theft, drunkenness, sexual relations outside marriage, and homosexual practice, will not be tolerated in the lives of Gordon community members either on or off campus. For all candidates, including those not formally affiliated with Gordon, if you are currently an elected official, or if you were to become an elected official, please explain your position about whether or why Beverly continues to do business and engage in contracts with Gordon, given that Gordon explicitly requires its community to discriminate against a group that is considered a protected class in the state of Massachusetts, otherwise illegal. 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm not Brendan, but my stance on LGBTQ plus is, I was raised Christian, went to church. I was not raised Catholic, so I had a different view on things. I have a handful of people in my family that are part of that community. When I was living in California, and my landlord brought up a point. He's like, why do people want to get married? Why do they want that status? Like, why do they want the name of marriage when, in a Catholic sense of the term, they view it as between a man and a woman? And I saw his view on that, and then it got written into law, and it's just, and back then it was controversial, and then now it's just commonplace, and I think that we all need to always just be open with everything and step back and really, just look at how the cards fall. And I think that Beverly's very welcoming, and like I said, I'm born and raised here. We have Montserrat College of Art, we have Salem, we have Endicott, we have so many different walks of life that are here and are very, we're very inclusive. And I think that moving forward, I'm always going to be very pro LGBTQ. I've had some of my funnest times out of the bar hanging out with LGBTQ community people, and it's a great community, and I think that we just need to make sure that we encourage that always. When it comes to Gordon College, I don't know how deeply affiliated. I went to soccer camps there in the summer as a kid. I did theater camps there as a kid. I went to the pond in the back all the time, did four-wheeling and all sorts of fun stuff. I don't know. I think it's a private Christian school, so I don't know legally what people can or cannot say that they can or cannot do. So I would have to look into that more and whether or not that's legal, if they can discriminate or say people can or can't do certain things. But if it were to fall into an illegal stature, then the city would have to definitely reconsider any contract or whatever with them. But again, it's also being open to being okay with everybody and every religion and every creed and every color, and so we might have to be understanding to their views. So I think we all need to, again, have an open mind with everything. And but yes, I'm definitely on the side of LGBTQ plus, and I will definitely encourage working with all communities if I get in as councilor at large.
So this might surprise some of you to hear this, but I actually do appreciate these questions. And I appreciate them because I know how much fear there is in this community because of actions that are being taken by the federal government. I know that there are people either in this room or in this community who are themselves in a same-sex marriage, or they know somebody who is in a same-sex marriage that are concerned that they may not have those same legal protections to marry who they love going forward. I know that there are people in this room who have children who have transitioned their gender, and they are concerned that their children won't be able to go to the Beverly Public Schools in safety and get a high-quality education free from bullying. I know that these concerns are very real, and there's a lot to unpack in these series of questions. To start, let me make my commitment to you. If I'm elected mayor, the city of Beverly will raise the pride flag every June. That is the promise that I am making to you. If I'm elected mayor, I will stand up for members of the LGBTQ community. I will make sure that you are not discriminated against. And if you are discriminated against, I will stand with you in condemning that behavior, because nobody should be made to feel inferior or less than or otherized because of their gender or their sexual orientation. If I'm elected mayor, I will partner with the schools in standing up for your children, no matter their sexual orientation or their gender. And I will make sure that we do everything we possibly can to combat bullying in the schools, and that we foster an environment of true acceptance and inclusivity. If I'm elected mayor, I will make sure that we build upon our status as a community committed to anti-discrimination in everything that we do, whether it's formal city policies or just in how our city officials treat each other. That is very important to me, and that is the commitment that I'm making to each and every person in this community. Now, at the core of my faith, which is unfortunately being made into a campaign issue by some, is a belief that everybody was created in the image of God. Everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, and that we are called to love each and every one of our neighbors, no matter what. That is what drives me as a city councilor. That is what will drive me as mayor. I will do everything that I possibly can to serve each and every person in this community as best as I can, with compassion. I will listen, and I will do all that I can as mayor to make sure that Beverly remains a welcoming, safe, and inclusive community. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and I appreciate this question as well. When I first joined this community, I worked at a different institution than Gordon, where I am now. I was at BU, I was Tufts, different settings where this was dealt with in a very different way. And so I had already responded to someone in writing about this question, and they were specifically wondering about the life and conduct statement. And although I don't speak for Gordon, because I don't have that official capacity, I would offer to you that this is not the statement that Gordon functions under. I think like many other religious institutions and private colleges, there has been an evolution of how these things are handled, dealt with, talked about on campus. So there's no way that I could ever imagine working in a place that teaches people to hate other people. I just can't fathom that I'd be able to go to work and look at myself in the mirror every day if that's what I thought I was doing on that campus. Also, Gordon has a shalom statement, which is what governs our work, which is what I share in my classroom, which is what I hang in my office, which is what we onboard with and talk about pretty regularly. When I think about this statement, I think about it as more like our Constitution, which is an imperfect document that was part of the foundational part of the institution that does not reflect where the institution is today. I would encourage you to look at the Shalom Statement for Gordon, which speaks to very great detail about diversity and appreciating the mosaic of God's creations. I would not step foot on a campus or in a building if I thought your children couldn't be safe there or you couldn't be safe there. It would be a denouncement to so many people who I'm close to if I allowed for that kind of discrimination. My mentors, my family members, friends, close people to me. So I want to touch on that first, because that is oftentimes, sometimes the surprise I would get, given that I've served as NAACP president for many years in Beverly. I've worked with the Human Rights Commission. I kicked off the Human Rights Commission in Ipswich with a lot of our great friends who are in this room. And they'll say, but you're a Gordon, so what does that mean? And it lets me know how really, unfortunately, there is a gap between the understanding of what's happening at Gordon now, what the community understands, and where this statement lives, and what we're actually working towards and what we're doing there. If I, as a person of color of African descent, were to decide to disengage from every institution that has a threat to my life, my ancestors' life, or currently, I would literally have to leave this country. I would work nowhere, including Beverly. I'm here because I love Beverly. I work at Gordon because I believe I'm a part of that progression and that a part of creating an inclusive environment. You can look at my course load and what I teach. And I have to tell you, I have worked in many secular spaces, and Gordon is not perfect, but I have met some of the best people who did not discriminate against me, unlike whatever the narratives may be. We have 88 different denominations and many ways of thinking. We are not a monolith. Christians are not a monolith. Gordon is not a monolith. And so I would ask for the same grace and open-mindedness in return for someone who might identify as Christian to be able to think about all the Christians you know in your life and how different they might be ideologically in many ways. And I offer to you that that exists at Gordon and that we encourage our students to be open-minded that way at Gordon. And I have never witnessed, participated in, understood there to be this kind of discrimination tolerated at Gordon. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I think Beverly's openness and its commitment to human rights and to equality is what makes this such a special community, and continuing to foster that sense of welcoming ought to be a priority forever, because I think it is the secret sauce, so to speak. Making sure that folks of all walks of life feel that support in the policies that we pursue as a city is essential. Making sure that we're continuing to signal through flag raising, through a continuous support of the LGBTQI plus community is essential. And my view of this is that support for the LGBTQ plus community is that is the vanguard, right? Because my view is that if rights for any one community are stripped away, that is just a slippery slope to eroding the rights of others from there. And so we have to draw a line in the sand in who we support, how loudly we support that group, because at the end of it, we all become sort of more vulnerable if rights from others are stripped away. And so we have to continue to support our community. I'm very proud of the work I've done in my professional life to support LGBTQ plus folks, including bringing folks together as stakeholders to decide how best to allocate funds derived from various sources, for example, for vulnerable populations, including the LGBTQ plus community, working with cities and towns to make sure they know how best to reach vulnerable communities when they didn't otherwise know how to. And so bringing those with lived experience to the table, reaching those hard-to-reach communities, and making sure they had a seat at the table. Working in Congress and at the state level on policies specific to the community, including the Global Respect Act, which would introduce punishments similar to those meted out to those that would persecute internationally based on gender or religious creed, to those that would persecute based on sexual orientation. We do not currently sanction those who would persecute based on sexual orientation in foreign lands. They're still allowed to come into the country without any prejudice. We've got to change that as a country. And so I'm very proud of the work we've done there. I'm also very proud to have the support of the first legally married LGBTQ couple in Beverly, Jim and Walter. Hello. This is obviously something that, like I say, is what is essential to the heartbeat of Beverly, that folks feel welcome, that we are pursuing the policies that make folks feel welcome, so that they put down roots here, they contribute to the fabric of our community, and we're all better for it. So you can count on me to continue to pursue those policies, to pursue that sense of welcoming, and to be a conduit to all communities here in Beverly. So again, I appreciate the question.
All groups, including the LGBTQIA, should be treated equal. And when I was in the military years ago, we had the policy, don't ask, don't tell. And I worked with multiple gay soldiers. We'd go off and we'd do missions. And we didn't think about that. It's love of country. It's how much you love your country, it's where your heart's at. They have your back, you have their back, and you have America's back. So it's huge that whatever we do, we all stick together, we all work together. If you have a specific group, you work with other groups, and you be completely peaceful and talk it out. Because I will 110% talk to anybody, whatever they do, whatever. I want to hear their side. They've walked in different footsteps, just like I've walked in different footsteps, and I have different opinions. I see things different, and you see things completely different. Again, as I talked earlier, you don't, because of a few bad apples within these groups that are causing problems, you don't blame that whole group altogether. So each group that we have needs to police each other. If you see something going on, then you take care of it. My family, Italians, when my great-grandfather went to Topsfield years ago, he could not buy a house. He had to use somebody else in between to buy that house for him to get that house. The Irish had every nationality that came here, we've all had issues. So if you're having an issue, HRC and also social justice, form a committee, talk with those individuals there. And we'll work it out the best we can. But we all have to have unity together. We all have to work together. Reference to Gordon, if anything's illegal taking place that they're doing, we should not be working with them. But we heard otherwise. But every group has their own opinions. They have their own ways. You can set your rules in your group. Some of the other group can set their rules in their group. So we want everybody to be equal, the best we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. As long as we know this, as long as there have been humans on Earth, there have been transgender, gay, straight, bisexual people. This is humanity. And intersex, I apologize, yes, and intersex individuals. So, yes, in 2002, I was proud as your state representative to help defeat, with my words and my vote, to help defeat an amendment that would have been put in front of people to write into the state constitution a definition of marriages between a man and a woman. And a couple of years later, when I was no longer in the legislature, I was proud to be back in the building advocating with my former colleagues, with my brothers, with my mom, for full marriage rights for same-sex couples. As your mayor, I was proud to be able to join with colleagues on the city council in starting our Human Rights Committee and in working hand in hand with them for years on all the issues that matter. So today, we're talking more and more about issues around the LGBTQ community, because there's so much coming at us from Washington. There's hate coming at us, there are attacks on individuals, there are attacks on groups of people. And the reality is that I, in my heart, always have, always will, support complete equal rights for everyone in the LGBTQ plus community. Our transgender friends and neighbors, their right to receive gender-affirming care. Everyone to be free from all discrimination. The reality is everyone has the right to the same rights as everyone else. One of the wonderful things about Beverly is we work really hard to live that out. It's here. I have always, always, always fought for everyone in this community, and I always will. Today, if you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, or you love someone who is, if you're a member of our immigrant community or love someone who is, if you're a person of color or love someone who is, you may well be very afraid. In Beverly, we need to fight, lock arms, stand together, and do everything in our power to ensure that everyone's rights are everyone's rights, always.
Thank you. Our next group of questions has to do with diversity and representation. So the selected questions are: nearly all of Beverly's new residents are people of color who now make up 15% of our community. What is your approach to balancing the diverse needs of our city? Whose voices do you tend to prioritize? Submitted by the Social Justice Book Club. Those from marginalized or minoritized groups are often the most impacted, yet have the least input in policy decisions. How would you actively seek input from groups who are less able or likely to engage with City Hall or City Council? Submitted by Mindy DiPolito. How important would you rank representation on the council of the different people who make up the city? For example, gender, sexuality, race, income, etc. And finally, the Beverly Race Equity Audit was published in May 2022. It said, racial equity, this is a quote, racial equity is when race can no longer be used to predict life outcomes and outcomes for all groups are improved. Has the city actually made any progress on outcomes since the audit, and how do you measure the success? And that was submitted by Social Justice Book Club. 2 minutes each. Thank you.
Thank you. So the 15% actually seems a bit low. If you remember when the 2020 census was being undertaken, I think a lot of people in our community were afraid to put their hands up. So I would say that our diversity is higher than 15%. Beverly's always flourished because of our people, and it continues today. In the spring of 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, we were just about ready to consider our annual operating budget. I went to the city council and I asked, and they agreed, that we put aside $150,000 in that moment for a racial justice initiative. We then spent the summer working with the community, having community conversations to figure out how to proceed, how to move next. We landed on a race equity audit, which we conducted over the next couple of years with the help of some tremendous consultants. And what came from that, two things came. We didn't wait for the audit results. We hired a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging director. And along with that, the race equity audit found, we focused the audit on the city of Beverly's municipal operations. And we found a number of things. The things we focused on initially are representation in our staff and our volunteers on boards and committees. We've done a lot of work, city and school leaders, to try to build relationships with colleges and universities and their career centers, so we can try to get more, and going into trade organizations and the like, to try to ensure that we have more diverse applicant pools for all of our job postings. And this takes time, but I think you'll see we have built greater diversity in our workforce. We're working hard to try to find our own communities within our community, because a lot of people aren't connected in a way we need. We need all of us to be. So we've done work on digital equity. We've done work on language access. And I think we've made some really good strides with both of those, and yet the real crucial piece is to be out within the community. There are a lot of people in Beverly who are newer to this city who won't put their hands up because where they came from, if they're first-generation immigrants, government was not a safe place. So we are engaged in it every day. We have wonderful people working on city staff, volunteering, like all of you, and I think the progress has been good and needs to be. That's where we have more to do, as in everything.
Yeah, the voices that are not being heard, as we know, we have the Human Rights Committee, and now hopefully we got the Social Justice Committee. You can form your own committee, and that'd be recommended. But you'll be the voices. And the City Hall, before the council meetings start, 3 individuals can speak 5 minutes each, and you can be their voice. You can go up there and speak whatever you want to speak. So that avenue, it's there, and put it right out to the public. Everybody watching BevCam and the other channels they have, they'll be able to do that. I was born in Beverly, but I grew up in Leominster, and it was a plastic town. Middle class, we had Spanish, whites, blacks. Switched real quick, and I went to A.L. Ralside, and my first name was Upolo. In first grade, kid was picking on me. He was calling me Oyopu, because that's how you spell it backwards. And after 2 weeks, I had tears in my eyes. Then I looked at him, and I said, hey, you got pretty big ears. And he got upset, and that felt good. And a couple days later, I says, I've been checking all the other ears out. Your ears, they're not big. They're enormous. So he's crying after 2 weeks saying, oh, how come you're picking on me? You know, so, but that's where it started. So I was kind of a smart A. And that continued. So I went to Leominster High School. The biggest black guy there, Lou Austin, he protected me. I'd mess around, I'd say stuff, but I was short. That's how I had to learn to run. But everybody worked together in that, in the school. There was all unity, not like what we, some of the stuff that we're seeing today. To balance and diversity, I think we're all together right now. The Irish came here, they had signs that need not apply for jobs. The French came here, had their issues. The Italians, WAPs, without papers. But every culture that comes here, there's all issues. And there's certain individuals, the bad apples, they're going to treat you badly. And, you just have someone try to work that out the best that they can. And that's where we have the Human Rights Committee and hopefully in the future, the Social Justice Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. A lot of my professional work has been in community engagement, stakeholder engagement, working on issues like environmental justice, working on issues like health equity, making sure that we are reaching those difficult to reach populations typically. And what I think we need to do here in Beverly, first and foremost, the thing I'm most excited to work on is building on what the mayor just said, is to formalize our community engagement standards. A lot of communities in Massachusetts and beyond have done this, right, where exactly the process that's going to play out when a project owner comes into town, whether that's a utility, whether that's a developer, or projects undertaken by the city. You will know exactly how we're going to try to reach these types of folks who aren't, as the mayor said, going to be thrilled or excited to go to City Hall. That can often instigate a sense of anxiety. We've got to do better about meeting people where they are. Again, as I say, it's the kind of underpins our campaign, with the idea being that we recognize that there are a lot of new voices here in Beverly that deserve a seat at the table on issues related to our local infrastructure, related to our local environment, related to our local health standards, and working to make sure that we formalize how we take that approach, I think is essential, and it'll make folks feel like they can kind of wrap their arms around the issues happening here in Beverly. So a lot of the work we've done, for example, is thinking outside of the box. We would do, in Cambridge, Somerville, for example, if there was a big utility project that was going to, require construction through neighborhoods that were often subjected to kind of environmental injustice, we took the time to be in places where folks were already going. We have to look outside the box of, we'll come to a town hall style meeting in a government building. Instead, we've got to go to the places where folks are already congregating, whether that's local houses of worship, whether that's community events related to their culture or their neighborhood, and making sure that we have the resources in those places to work effectively. So having language interpretation, being ADA accessible, and having folks on site who can relate back to the community in that sort of way, and then take that data back into how we do our decision making. So I think making sure that we have those formal standards is definitely a great first step to help reach those communities, making sure that they can be counted, making sure that their voice is heard in any project sort of taken on by the city. And in doing so, I think we'll increase the sense of equity and justice here, regardless of the type of project, whether it's environmental, public health, etc., our schools. So I'd look forward to working with you all to design those standards, to make sure that we're doing and incorporating all of the things that will help reach every neighbor here in Beverly, to make sure their voices are counted when we have big initiatives or projects come to town. So thanks again for the question.
I brought the teacher hat in me. So I do have a stack of paper in front of me if you've been curious about what that is. I like reference materials like I teach my graduate students. So sometimes when I walk along the morning walk where our kids go to school, and I'm just so impressed and amazed at how diverse Beverly is and has gotten so in the last few years. And I'm offering this reference even as a way to show how far we have come. Many of you in this room were there with me or reached out to me or I became friends with you because of my very viral first year moment on the school committee. And it's still on BevCam, much to my chagrin, so I probably shouldn't have watched it this morning because I got all like teary-eyed about it. It was actually, I think I was calmer when it was happening then than when you look back on a moment like that. So what occurred was I was on the school committee, and I don't have any data to substantiate whether I'm the first elected person of color or not, but it certainly seems surprising to some people. And there was an incident in our school committee meeting where someone said, what qualifies her to be on the school committee, despite my PhD in education and political science degrees and masters of education. I'll go on. But this community rallied in the meeting and after the meeting. And that's where I made my other point in my earlier comment about knowing when to stay in a state of progression and not writing people off. This community had people come to me and say, I had no idea that was possible in Beverly. I had people from around the world, much less the country, saying, what happened to you, televised, happens to me all the time. And so this is an article, one of which was in the Salem News, and also the Boston Globe had covered it as well. And Beverly raised the No Place for Hate flag to recognize that incident, which again was a way that we unified our community around a common understanding about the need to humanize one another. I think one of the critical things about these series of questions is, I think this deserves a much more extensive conversation, but I applaud you for attempting to try to get it all into this time. The ways in which people want to be approached and engaged differs culturally. We cannot rely on tried and true ways that we reach people like robocalls and surveys, because people for whom being excluded has been intentional need to be intentionally invited. They need to know it's safe to show up and say what they think. There's a reason many of our rooms look very pale in Beverly, not because we are not people who are not inviting and engaging. I have witnessed it, experienced it myself, but it takes a certain level of courage, self-advocacy, and feeling like I have the ability to engage to do that. Not everybody has that resource, that confidence, or the ability. And the question is, how do we continue to say, who are the voiceless in the room in Beverly, regardless of what they identify as in Beverly, but in more particular circumstances, when you are visibly different, when you're phenotypically walking in the room and shouting, I am different, the baggage is different in how you can show up. I have the ability to be myself in most spaces fully, but I would like that for everyone in Beverly. And I think we have to do the intentional invitational work that we have been doing, but to do it in the way that I've seen us trying to do it today, and we can continue to do that. And I appreciate the invitation that you gave me after this incident that kept me plugged in and wanting to keep working for Beverly. So thank you.
I appreciate the questions, and to boil it down, I think there's really one question that comes out in reading each of these. How do we make sure that folks who are a part of any marginalized community in our city have a seat at the table? And in city government, the seats at the table literally are the boards and committees that serve a whole host of functions across city government and are staffed entirely by volunteers. And I think Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza was spot on in saying there needs to be a very intentional invitation to bringing folks onto those boards or committees, if they're so willing to serve us, in a way that hasn't happened. And right now, and I see in the back of the room, State Representative Bowen, former City Councilor Bowen, who very correctly identified that we have far too many vacancies on our boards and committees, and I greatly appreciate everybody who served, but that current representation amongst those boards and committees doesn't really correlate to the representation of our community as a whole. And I think that's something that the current administration should be more intentional on. If I'm elected mayor, I will be intentional about bringing folks to the table. And it can't just be a matter of putting an open application and saying we have a vacancy in the Conservation Commission who's interested, there needs to be intentional partnerships with diverse community organizations. The city needs to be partnering with each and every one of you to find folks who are interested in participating in city government, who maybe haven't in the past, who felt like they couldn't for whatever reason. Perhaps they were intentionally excluded in the past, whether in Beverly or elsewhere. And so that's one thing that I think, and I am committed to working on if I'm elected mayor, is very important. Going out into the community, actively building those relationships, building that trust, and inviting folks to the table in the form of volunteer on one of those boards and committees. And I think that is a very important action item or goal that we should be setting in assessing how our city is doing in terms of making progress on social justice initiatives. And I have a lot of respect for our DEIB director, Ms. Fahari. I think she brings a lot of talent to that role. And that's one thing that she and I have talked about in the conversations that we've had. How do we, while committing ourselves at the macro level to making sure that Beverly remains a welcoming community, how do we live that out in very tangible ways? I think one of those tangible ways is making sure that we are filling vacancies on our boards and committees and doing so in a way that represents the diversity of Beverly. Thank you.
I really like that idea of getting people on more commissions and committees. Shameless plug, I have 2 seats available at the Beverly Airport for our commission. We could really use a couple more Beverly people on there. I think our city's doing really well with diversity and inclusion and hiring. And I know at the airport we have a requirement of a certain percentage of minority-owned businesses that we hire every single year. We have to do that, and we encourage that. And I think, again, back to what I was saying before about broken systems with immigration, I think there's another broken system with minority-owned businesses and the ability for them to bridge a gap between just being a business and just trying to make it through every day, and then also getting opportunities that are bigger, that, like, working for the airport. Like, if I want to hire a company, a minority-owned company, to work at the airport, there is a slew of paperwork that they all have to fill out, all these hoops they have to jump through, and I think it's intimidating, especially if you don't speak English or whatever the case may be. And I think, again, there needs to be a better connection between minority-owned businesses and getting those better opportunities. And I think that we can do better and maybe come up with a new commission that allows us to connect with those people that have those questions, that need that, that have that language barrier, and fix that gap. And I think on the representation at the council, and whether it's gender, sexuality, race, income, all these things, I think I can't prioritize a list of rank of most important to least important, because everybody is affected differently, and one person, race is most important, another person, income is most important. So I think when things come across the table, we have to just make sure that we have an open mind, and everything is important. And it doesn't matter who brings it to the table. And that's what I liked about sitting at city council every single month, going to every single meeting. And even if I don't get elected, I'm still going to go to meetings, because to me, it's a lot of fun to watch someone. Like, there's a gentleman just got his license for the gas station down by at the end of the high school property. There's that little gas station across from the Balsh House. And watching that gentleman stand there and have, like, this horrible history of the previous owner and all this other stuff that happened, and he's like, I'm going to do this right. And it was a small thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it might have been small, but to him, that was the most important thing. That was his business. It's just a gas station, but to him, that's his livelihood. That's everything, and that's what excites me, is like those little things. Getting a permit to sell popcorn at the beach, or to open up an ice cream stand, or whatever the case may be. Every single thing is so important, and I think that we just need to look at everyone individually as a person and fully important, and not one thing ranking another thing over another. So, thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking at the clock and I want to offer this next group of questions. We're going to shorten the time a little bit because we want to make sure to introduce Julie Flowers and John Mulady and then be able to do like a very brief wrap up. So we're going to do 1 minute for this group of questions. So several people shared concerns about the high cost of living in Beverly. Some of you have talked previously about increasing middle income housing stock. But how do you support and uplift lower income individuals and families, and how is quote unquote affordable determined and defined? Several people expressed concern about how expensive it is for their children to participate in sports, noting that the cost of gear and fees makes it inaccessible for some families. What are ways the city can support free and or affordable youth and after school activities? What are your thoughts about Beverly's no camping ordinance and its impact on those experiencing homelessness in Beverly? What should the city's role in preventing and dealing with homelessness, specifically with those who are unsheltered? That was submitted by Mindy DiPolito. And the ability to access quality education and training was a value expressed by several people. Mass Hire, a statewide workforce development program, has a North Shore Career Center in downtown Salem, and North Shore Community College is in Danvers and Lynn. How do you see the city partnering with Mass Hire and or North Shore Community College? What can the city do to serve our adult working population in terms of education and training? So 1 minute, please.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so participating in sports, I volunteer, I coach my son's soccer team. Buy Nothing Beverly, you can get all your gear. People are always swapping things. I'm in Scouts, I'm a den leader. Old uniforms we're giving to the new kids coming in from the older kids. I think, again, there's a big sense of community. If you know how to look around, you might be able to find some help in those avenues. I don't want to seem cold. I could go on that for a long time. The no camping ordinance, I agree with the no camping ordinance. Again, another massive disconnect is the mental health issue that we have. We have a problem with a disease called addiction, and I drive people every night. My best friend was an alcoholic, and he figured it out in high school. And he's helped hundreds of people in AA and NA. And I think the city does a great job. One of my friends is an officer, and he's part of that team when there's a domestic issue or a mental health issue. He comes out. I think we're doing a great job moving forward with that. We just need to do more. I think there's more to the mental health issue that needs to be tackled than what is being done now. And I think arresting people or doing like the homeless thing, you can't lead a horse to water. They need to want to get clean or get help. Some people choose to be homeless because it's an easier way of life for them. So I think there, again, back to the diversity and like reaching out to people and making a safe space for people to talk. We've done that at the airport with people who don't want to show up to a public meeting. We've figured out how to connect with people that don't feel comfortable talking. And I think that needs to expand into everything into the city, where we need to make spaces available for people, non-official, non-open meeting, that they can express their feelings and actually get something done and have it trickle up to the city council, to the mayor, to the offices that it needs to be seen. Mass Hire, I'm so sorry. I've been in Mass Hire. I've looked for jobs in Mass Hire. I've been helped with my resume. The people at Mass Hire are amazing, and I highly recommend if you have issues, go to them. DTA assistants, they connect you with Mass Hire. It's an incredible program, and I'm sure there could be a lot more to be done there, but I'll stop now. Thank you so much.
So there's probably too much to be able to sum into 1 minute, and I think the best thing to condense it all is that what is most important for the city is to be consistently evaluating the needs of all of our residents, and then consistently evaluating the services available to those residents and how we in city government can make those connections. On housing, we have a host of affordable housing units, many of which have been developed by Harbor Light, and I know Andrew DeFranz is in the room. How does the city keep partnering with them to make sure that residents in need know of the opportunities in those housing developments? We talk about missing middle housing. How does the city create, through zoning or other measures, the environment necessary to foster the development of those more naturally affordable, smaller multifamily units? When it comes to our homeless neighbors, how does the city, whether it's through the Beverly Police Department or other social service providers, connect those folks with the services that they need so that they can get into a place where they're able to get into stable housing. And I think that with Mass Hire, how does the city connect those who are unemployed but want to work with the opportunities that we know so many of our small businesses have? That is a very important role that city government plays, and I will make sure we are consistently assessing those needs and that we in city government are making those important connections for our residents.
Thank you. I actually saw the title of Access and Affordability and immediately went to Disability Access, but I do want to touch on that just a teeny bit. But I also think about our neighbors who are differently able to also need to access our city. And I don't know that we have a section to talk about that, so I'll try to incorporate that in my response. We need more housing that's affordable, and we also need to define locally what affordable means. One of the really key things that's happening right now that you can contribute to is there is a revisiting of the Chapter 70 formula for how we fund our schools. It is no longer adequate. It is also an issue that's not entirely local, but it goes without saying that it does affect us deeply locally if we have disagreements about how our budgeting process works and serves everyone. So if you can participate in that, please do so. We know we need more housing, and we understand that there are concerns about health and safety in terms of people living outdoors, but we also have to realize that there is a very big strain in our shelter and housing system. So I really applaud Beverly for being proactive in these areas. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about Mass Hire very quickly. I've already worked with Mass Hire on some of these types of questions with regard to access and opportunity. I had an opportunity when we were going to pursue a wind project in Salem, which I hope will be revived, just to at least be in conversation, talking about language access so that all the community knows what's available to them, reaching out to the community in culturally responsive ways so that people know they're have a sense of belonging. And we also do have some issues, I would have to say, with some of our trades groups that have different ways of recruiting members that isn't always as open as we would love for it to be. And Mass Hire was able to have that conversation to think about how they also could promote equitable access to the types of opportunities they have. And so again, I'm probably gonna have to join the book club because there's just no way I'll ever talk about all the things, and so you may see more of me. But I wanna just say that those couple of points I think are important because opportunity can be there, housing can be there, but we also need to make sure it is accessible and just made available in the most possible way to the most people.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Again, I think this goes back to the need to think about how we're doing things community engagement-wise on a formal basis. Because if we're, tailoring our outreach to specific communities, let us say those experiencing homelessness, for example, and we can wrap our arms around the issues that would instigate them to need to camp, for example, because as Dr. Mackenzie DeFranza said, there might be a strain on shelters, etc. They might need resources related to addiction or other ailments, then that can help as a community us to move forward and to provide the resources they need. So there's that education piece, and there's that need for us to think about what we're doing on the ground, literally, right? If we're tailoring our approach and our community engagement to the needs of the community, then we're obviously going to be able to better derive the needs of those specific communities. Right now, I think we take a kind of blanket approach, and that makes it much more challenging when we're talking about things like affordability. As far as how we can increase affordable housing stock, we have to get creative. There's a housing crisis, not just in eastern Massachusetts, but in the eastern seaboard, quite frankly. And we're years behind in making sure that we have the stock to catch up and make sure that folks are able to put down roots in communities they want to put down roots in. There are certain educational pieces, again, that we can bring to bear, which is things like accessing community preservation funds, working with our state partners to potentially introduce real estate transfer fees. So when big developers come in, they make a killing, and then they sell in short order to a new property owner that's less committed, let's say, to affordability and access, then we should investigate the option of having those real estate transfer fees be put into an affordable housing trust here in the city, for example. So there's a lot of different, I see you, sorry. There's a lot of different avenues we need to take, but I think key thing first is that education piece and that that intentionality of our community engagement approach formally. If we commit ourselves to that, we're going to bring more voices into the table. We're going to better understand the needs of our community, and we're going to be able to move forward together as a community, more educated and more aware of what policies we should take. So that would be my approach. Thank you.
Reference to the students, each student should equally get $8,088. The state's only given them, in the Beverly School District, under $3,500. A student that's in Lynn School District will receive over $17,000. A student in Lawrence School District will receive almost $21,000. So, all students should be treated equal and go to the housing. Right now, for a one-bedroom in Beverly, over $2,500. For a two-bedroom, you're going to pay over $3,000 in the city of Beverly. Right there, that's going to cause homelessness. You know, what I can see there. Camping, it's very tough. It's very tough on the police. If there's an incident within that camp, for them to go investigate, it's very, very dangerous. So, again, Andrew with Harbor Lights, he, on Sawyer Road and Tozier Roads, they're building a bunch of new units up there, so they're trying to work something out there. So hopefully that can take care of some of the individuals that are homeless right now. Thank you.
Thanks. On housing, we have made much progress. Low-income families, seniors, individuals at Anchor Point, Beverly Village for Living in the Arts, and the YMCA redevelopment on Cabot Street are providing forever affordable homes for those families and individuals and who may follow. Our inclusionary zoning ordinance, as a city, we have tweaked that a couple of times, and we now have a strong ordinance that requires that for any housing development that's built, 12% of the units have to be made available, again, forever, for people making under 60% of area median income. Our seniors don't have enough options to downsize to try to stay in Beverly when they're ready to sell the home they raised their families in. That's something we're working on, and I think trying to find the right geography, the right locale for a real senior community, a larger senior community that can help put more housing into the market for first-time home buyers. Whoops. And then I just want to touch on the no camping. People sleeping outdoors is not good for them. It's a public health issue always, and it's at times a public safety issue. Our police community impact unit, together with the mental health and domestic violence prevention counselors that the city employs, work daily with our folks who are unsheltered. It's very difficult. Anybody who knows addiction knows that somebody needs to be ready for help. And that's the commonality, not always, but very, very much a commonality that people who are unsheltered and we see living outdoors are struggling with that. We work every single day of the year at that. Occasionally, we really land on somebody being ready and finding the help and getting to more stable housing. It's a challenge. We work at it every day. Thanks.
Okay, so we are just about at time. So for anyone who needs to leave, please go as you need. I'm going to share two videos from Julie Flowers and John Mulady, who are unable to be here but wish they could be here. And they submitted these before we had finalized our list of questions. So if you want to talk to them about the things we covered today with our other candidates, please reach out to them. I know they would love to hear from you. And then we'll do one quick wrap up. So if you need to go, go, but we're going to play these two videos and then just do kind of a checkout.
Members of our Social Justice Book Club, members of our Beverly Human Rights Committee, and members of the wider Beverly community who have gathered for this important conversation. My name is Julie Flowers. My pronouns are she, her, and I am currently serving as one of your at-large city councilors. I am in my fourth term as an at-large city councilor and the second of those as your city council president, and I'm currently running for a fifth term because I hope to be able to continue to work hard with and for you to keep building the kind of community where all people can know that they are valued and seen, respected and heard, and most importantly, safe. I'm so sorry to not be able to be there in person with you today. Unfortunately, it's a work day for me, and so thank you, Hannah and Aya, for allowing me this opportunity to join in the conversation briefly by video, and I look forward to hearing how the conversation unfolds today and to being part of this conversation and this work as we go forward. In my 8 years on the City Council, I have worked to advocate for all people. I have worked alongside you and alongside our elected leaders to keep building a Beverly where we are thinking about these kinds of social justice topics and addressing the real needs of the real people in our community each day. But that work is not done. So I am running for re-election because I want to continue to be about that work with you. I have and will continue to advocate for our LGBTQIA plus friends and neighbors, to stand with and for our trans friends and neighbors and their families, as they are especially vulnerable and under attack right now in our current political climate. I want to continue to advocate for our neighbors experiencing homelessness and those who are unsheltered, to continue to think about the resources that our city can bring to bear and to work to help create safer and better solutions for you. I want to continue working to advocate for and to work hard for our friends and neighbors who are undocumented, to ensure that Beverly is a place of safety for you, that your children are safe in our schools, and that you feel and know you are safe in our streets. I want to continue to work to advocate for access and affordability and justice and dignity in our housing, and to keep fostering a city council space and public meeting environment that is welcoming and inclusive and accessible for all. I have a track record of doing just that, and I don't intend to stop now. In all of these things, the measure of our success has to be not the intent, but the impact. And so determining what the impact is and has been on the real people whose real lives are affected every single day here in Beverly has to be the way that we continue to move forward. Going to you and understanding how we are being impactful in building the kind of community that is safe and welcoming for all people. To me, that will always be a work in progress. It has to be, because we need to continue to be better and better together at this work. I'm running for re-election to be part of that with you going forward, and I would be honored to have your vote on November 4th, and I look forward to hearing how this conversation unfolds today. Thank you so much.
And I just realized that we don't have captions, so if you would like a transcript, we will work to put one together, and in the future I will make a note to make sure there's captions or transcript available. Sorry about that.
Hi, John. Here we are going through the Social Justice Candidate Forum questions. Can you please introduce yourself with your name, your pronoun, your office, and a summary of your platforms?
Hi, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to submit our questions this way. I wish I could be there in person. My name is John Mulady. My pronouns are he, him, and I am running for the office of City Councilor at Large. My platform could be summed up with the acronym HOME, H-O-M-E, which stands for Healing, Opportunities, Maintenance, as well as Education.
Great. And what's your favorite thing about Beverly?
I would say my favorite thing about Beverly are the people, my friends and my family. I love our neighborhood, I love our neighbors, and I love living in a community that has provided so much support and love for me and my family. And I'm looking forward to giving back.
Great. And let's focus on safety for all with 3 minutes talking about some of the prompts that were sent along.
So while serving on the school committee between 2015 and 2021, I co-authored a resolution to provide safety and security for undocumented members of the Beverly school community, with the goal that the schools will be required to provide action plans for families, but also additional supports for our most vulnerable students. And I would like us to take a re-examination of what we can do as a city, working with other partners to help out members of our community who feel unsafe given the current political climate.
Also in the question, it talks about what kind of protection or support for the LGBTQIA plus community that you'd like to build. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so as Liz knows, this is very close to us. We have some very, very close friends that we've known for a long time who have a child that has transitioned. And this family means the absolute world to us. And knowing about their struggles and this boy's fear for going into school completely and totally breaks my heart. As an elected official, you have an opportunity to use what people call the bully pulpit. You can express your values and your concerns and let people know that they're loved and accepted. I don't like the word tolerate. To me, that means that you would tolerate a cold. You don't like it, but you're going to accept it. For me, we need to openly embrace members of our community. So what we can do on the council, if I'm fortunate enough to serve, is look at what type of services the city can provide, whether it be additional mental health advocates, some sort of alliance program, but also reaching out to different youth groups to provide for these kids. They are the most vulnerable. They're the ones most likely to commit acts of self-harm or suicide. So for me, it is a complete moral obligation to help out our residents.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, guys. I hope your meeting goes well. Appreciate this opportunity. Take care.
Okay, so just finally, we're going to offer one last round, 1 minute each to do any reflections or final thoughts. Our prompts are there any questions you'd like to revisit, or is there a question you wish we'd asked? But feel free to offer any final thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks. 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Look, a lot of fantastic ideas are being brought forward through this campaign by all the candidates. I know that I have a strong human rights and social justice record, a lot of it, most of it right here in this community. I am completely committed that the city of Beverly that we love is today, needs to be today, and needs to always be a city that everyone belongs in. Everyone who wants to be here needs to actually belong. That means we have to do this work every day. It shouldn't be so hard. It's gotten harder from the national level on down. At our very best in the community of Beverly, we are open, we are welcoming, and people have all the rights that everyone is supposed to have. It's an everyday challenge for us, and I'm grateful that every one of you who are here because I know that you're committed to that as well. So thank you, and for you and people watching on BevCam, I'm grateful again, and I hope to have your vote and continue as your mayor. Thanks.
Thank you to the Social Justice Book Club, Human Rights Committee, BevCam, and all the individuals who showed up to try to answer the questions the best we can. Beverly still has a ways to go to everyone to be treated equal. If those certain individuals, the bad apples, create something, you can do a public, it's it's a harassment prevention order. So if you're an adult, if someone does 3 incidents against you, you can go down to the district court. Juveniles that'll be threatened, 3 incidents against them, they can go down to the juvenile court and press charges. So keep that in mind. If that's really bad and that's happening to any of you here or any individuals you know, the harassment prevention order, again, for adults and for juveniles. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. This turnout is remarkable, and I think it speaks to Beverly's commitment to these issues and the work that needs to continue in order to make sure that remains the case. I think I can sum up a lot of how I'm feeling after the conversation as one where, as elected officials, prospective elected officials, we need to build trust with LGBTQI plus community. We need to build trust with our immigrant community. We need to build trust across the community generally. And I think how we do that is a lot of what I've been talking about and how we've been running our campaign, which is, again, going outside that box, meeting people where they are, bringing those different perspectives into the fold so that we can better move forward as a community. That is something I'm wholly committed to, should I be fortunate enough to be elected on November 4th. So that trust factor, building those relationships, is something that I think will power us forward together as a community to make sure that we remain committed and with our eye on the ball of these issues, particularly as the mayor alludes to. As the situation nationally continues to deteriorate, we can continue to be a beacon of hope and optimism for all people, and that is something I'm wholly committed to. I'd be so grateful for one of your 3 at-large votes on November 4th. I will not let you down. Thank you so much.
Again, I want to thank you all for pulling this together. I was really pleased to have this opportunity to do these kinds of deep dives in public, though limited, and really appreciate all of you for your questions, especially, there's Mindy and Claire and Carol, just, really helping us to think deeply about some of these issues. I've had the pleasure to serve in a volunteer role in our North Shore NAACP as one of the founders and eventually the president. I've therefore partnered with many of you in ways that allow me to know what your concerns were and what your issues were. What many people don't know and realize is that that organization was founded as an interracial endeavor, which was everybody essentially decided that there was an issue they wanted to face collectively. And it was never meant to be an exclusive experience. And here in Beverly and in this region, it has brought me so much closer to so many people who care about a lot of really critical things. And so I take that with me along with the welcome that I have seen, and also just knowing where we have room for growth and knowing that I'm not alone in that. And if I am so fortunate to be on this council, I would love to take not only my lived experience, but your own lived experiences, your enthusiasm and your willingness to be engaging to make sure we're listening really deeply in Beverly. So I thank you so much, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our hosts, to the Beverly Library, the Social Justice Book Club, the Human Rights Committee, and to each and every one of you for taking the time to come out today to hear from the candidates. I hope what sticks with you from today's conversation is that if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor, I will stand up and stand with every member of Beverly, regardless of your race, your religion, your gender, or your sexual orientation. In order for us as city leaders to continue to build upon Beverly's status as a welcoming community and a safe community for all, it's important for each and every one of us to listen, to learn, and to lead with compassion. If I'm fortunate enough to be Beverly's next mayor, that's what I will do. I will make sure that city services are accessible to everyone. I will make sure that we are building relationships throughout the community and that your voices are being heard at the table when city decisions are made. That's my commitment to each of every one of you, because what I believe makes Beverly so special are its people. Thank you again for taking the time today. I hope to earn your vote and your trust on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. Thank you for coming. I think that Beverly is on another level than any other city in this entire country. And we have that zip code. Everybody knows it now. And I think that gives us a responsibility as a community. It's kind of like a celebrity where we have this little bit of power. Let's use that power that we have to show the rest of the country how it's done. And I think we have the ability. I think we have the great minds in this room at every forum. Everyone up here is amazing. I think you're not going to go wrong with who you vote with. And I think that we have that responsibility as the superstars of the United States. Let's show them how it's done, and let's change the national narrative, and let's make it an amazing place, make the whole country an amazing place. And we're going to lead by example, and I think we can do it as a community. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I know we're over time. I'm so sorry about that. We've covered a lot. Thank you to our candidates for running, for being here in this conversation. I so appreciate that. For everyone who made today possible, please vote. If you're interested in the book club, the QR code is up on the screen, and please read books. Thank you.